Yeah. So with that being said, at number 3, we have a little young fella, Karl-Anthony Towns, Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah,
I can't believe it. He's not higher, to be honest, considering he hits that 3-pointer at 42%. He puts up the numbers like he's a star. He is the star of that team that has been for many years at this point. I think he's great.
I mean, not only 42%, but 42% on 8 attempts. That's 8 attempts from a center at 42%. That's amazing.
41-12, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So very, very close.
But I mean, again, on 8 attempts, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any center in the league who is close to taking those attempts, let alone hitting at that efficiency, let alone players in the league. He's a guy who could actually shoot the ball with the best of them in the league. And he's 7 foot tall, and not just 7 foot when you round it. He's a true 7-footer. He's a big guy. And as much as he's been in the league for a few years now, like you said, he still is young. He's probably just getting into his prime about now. Has had a couple years where
it's 25 next year.
That's what I mean. And he has had a couple years where he obviously first few years goes up in points, goes down a bit production wise over the last couple in terms of not going over the hurdle from what he had his best year of. But that doesn't mean that he's done improving by any means. He's finally has it seems like a team that he likes in terms of they brought in guys that he's happy with, he's friends with. They accept that he's the cornerstone. They're really giving him the time to go. And as long as he could stay healthy, I don't think it's a debate that we're probably having more of a discussion of between the 1, 2, and 3. I just think his longevity and I guess the fact that he hasn't been on a winning team so far is really what hurts him, because the 2 guys ahead of him, they've both been to a conference final, and Karl-Anthony Towns hasn't even won a playoff series. So.
Yeah, and that's the biggest knock, right? That team has been a playoff team. He has been able to lead them. I think back a lot. His numbers are very similar to Kevin Love. Back in Kevin Love was in Minnesota as well. Those numbers are very similar. Towns was actually up to 26.5 and 10.9 rebounds per game last year. His rebounds actually went down. I don't see him out of the realm of even like 28 and 12. I think that would bring him even ahead of the other 2 players ahead of this list. Another big knock on him, and one of the reasons that Minnesota is where they are, is that as much as he's a solid defensive player, he's not horrible. He's just not in that top 5 center conversation right now when it comes to defense. I think if he does get that defensive mentality up a little bit, he puts in as much effort on defense as he does on offense, then we're not just talking about the top center in the league. We're talking about one of the best players in the league, potentially the best player in the league. The fact that he can potentially get up that's at 30, 12, 5 assists per game, hitting 42, 43%. That's one of the best offensive years of anyone all time.
That's I was going to say exactly that. I mean, I feel like I was almost worried that I was going to get some contention when I make statements like that, you kind of look at me funny, but I completely agree. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he does have a year of putting up over 30 a game. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a year where he wins the MVP or he's a top candidate, and the only reason he doesn't win is because he got ripped off and his team maybe didn't have enough wins. But yeah, I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns, at the end of the day, like you said, not only, yes, like you said, he does lack a defensive ability, but he doesn't need to be the best defender in the league, to again reiterate that. The 2 guys ahead of him, they're not the best defenders in the league either, but they're good defenders, and that's all he needs to be. If he just becomes a good, consistent defender, that's enough to put him in discussion based on what he does on the offensive end, because he is a true leader. He's truly an all-star in that ability. Potentially, like we said, an MVP. He's their franchise player. He's done more than what was asked of him. Like I said, as long as he could stay healthy and he continues to improve, that he's going to go up and he stays at the same level. Probably going to see him around the same spot next year too as well, to be honest.
He'll be 25 next year. Yeah. Like he can definitely even go up in this list.
I could see it. Even again, the 2 guys ahead of him, as great as they are, there's room. I know there's room.
It's team success. If Minnesota can win those games, then there's no reason why Karl-Anthony Towns can't be the best center in this league.
Exactly. That's what it came down to me, 100%. Like I said, both these guys made a conference final, and not a conference final, but they both at least won a playoff series, and that's really what it came down to me, was the fact that he hasn't done anything there. So it's just not comparable.